19 Popular Holidays and Traditions with Pagan Origins. Christmas, Easter, Halloween. Good and fun traditions we all love, but do you know the dark history behind them? In this video we are going to look at 19 Christian holidays that are older or have a darker origin than you realize. Before we begin, if you like this kind of content, and want to see more of it, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. The first tradition we're going to cover is Christmas. First of all, Yeshua, or better known as Jesus, was not born the 25th of December, but in the summertime, most probably around March or April. The church moved it to December 25th to align it with the winter solstice of non-believing pagans, and old Roman tradition of Saturnalia, trying to convert them. But that's not all. The tradition has also its roots in the satanic tradition of the Moabites, which older than the pagan or Roman ones. Santa. This is where Santa Claus came from, which to popular belief is not a split version of Sinterklaas. As we explained in one of our previous videos, Sinterklaas, the Dutch holiday, however some aspects have merged into each other. The reason why is because the church also used the Sinterklaas tradition for the pagans' tradition, by giving them the same aspects, in order to keep early non-believing Christians, which still mostly worshipped pagan traditions, happy. And so the placing the shoe with the carrot, and bad children get put into the sack of black peat tradition came to the Sinterklaas tradition. Among early Germanic tribes, one of the major deities was Odin, the ruler of Asgard. A number of similarities exist between some of Odin's escapades and those of the figure who would become Santa Claus. Odin was often depicted as leading a hunting party through the skies, during which he rode his eight-legged horse, Sleipnir. In the 13th century Poetic Edda, Sleipnir is described as being able to leap great distances, which some scholars have compared to the legends of Santa's reindeer. Odin was typically portrayed as an old man with a long, white beard, much like Saint Nicholas himself. During the winter, children placed their boots near the chimney, filling them with carrots or straw as a gift for Sleipnir. When Odin flew by, he rewarded the little ones by leaving gifts in their boots. In several Germanic countries, this practice survived despite the adoption of Christianity. As a result, the gift-giving became associated with Saint Nicholas. Only nowadays, we hang stockings rather than leaving boots by the chimney. Something more darker is that the helpers of him, which ye now know as the elves, back then known as hobgoblins, would beat, kill or steal the children of the non-worshippers from their homes. To not be mistaken, all worshippers would hang a garland in front of their door. Later on the tradition was dropped and only the hobgoblins remained, called the Krampus or Weihnachtsmann in the Germanic languages, which translates to Santa Claus. Seen or known as Satan. Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a celebration of the god of the harvest, Saturn. Taking place roughly around the winter solstice, Saturnalia was meant to beckon Saturn to bring life back to the world while the pagans suffer through winter. The winter solstice marks the shortest day in the year, so after the solstice, the sun begins to climb higher in the sky again and spring will gradually return. Feasts and merriment were to honor Saturn and invite him back to earth. Moabites. The more darker aspect of this story is something that goes even older than the pagan or Roman tradition. Namely the one of the ancient Moabites. In short, every year around the winter solstice, Christmas, parents would make a wish list of what they would like to see the next year, giving it with their sacrificial child on the lap of deity named Moloch, of which the deity would take the bad troubling child, and fulfill their wishes. We might also note that Santa still wears the same hat as this deity until this day. All these traditions have been merged together into the Christian traditions of Christmas and Sinterklaas in Europe, in order to keep everyone happy, and convert all pagans and heathen in the long run to Christianity. At our second cover we have Halloween. Halloween comes from Celtic pagan roots. The original holiday was called Samhain, marking the end of summer and the beginning of winter. Samhain was a day that celebrates spirits and the dead as year and vegetation begin to die. This season was thought to allow spirits to cross into the physical realm, so pagans would have bonfires to communicate with these spirits through ashes or roasting nuts. Dressing up in costume was meant to resemble the evil spirits so that they would think you were one of them and not bother you. Christians adopted this holiday and renamed it All Hallows Eve to remember their deceased saints and martyrs. At number 3 we have birthday candles. Pagan markings of the year generally centered around solstices, and personally around birthdays. Much like during solstices, birthdays are a time that brings out spirits, but with a target on the birthday boy or girl. In order to ward off evil spirits and beckon upon the good spirits, candles were placed on a cake. One candle for each year the person has been alive and an additional candle in hopes of another healthy year. Today we still put candles on birthday cakes out of blind tradition, the fun of fire, and indulgence in cake. Don't forget about the spiritual origins, maybe you'll count the candles more carefully. At number 4 we have knocking on wood. Pagan spirituality is strongly tied to nature. Spirits were thought to live in trees. Knocking on wood was to provoke the attention of good spirits when in need of their assistance and protection, or to shoo away evil spirits with the ruckus so they don't overhear your secrets or worries. The meaning of this tradition is probably the one that has held up the strongest through time. When we knock on wood today, it is to ward off bad luck. With many of these other practices, the ritual stays consistent, but the spiritual significance has gone ignored. Coming to number 5 we have kissing under mistletoe. In Norse mythology, Frigga, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, wept after her son Balder was killed by a mistletoe arrow. Frigga's tears turned the red berries white and resurrected her lost son, bestowing vitality and love connotations to this plant. Also, Druids used to cut mistletoe with a sickle during the first new moon after the winter solstice. Sprigs of mistletoe were to be hung in doorways as a means of protection from evil spirits. Additionally, mistletoe was thought to contain the sperm of the gods because of the white substance from the mistletoe berries. Mistletoe was considered an aphrodisiac and fertility treatment. Be careful who you kiss under that mistletoe, you might end up bonded for life. At number 6 we have wedding emblems. These are a couple more pagan practices that were created to ward off evil spirits. During wedding ceremonies, people feared that evil spirits would take the bride. So, she wore a veil to hide from these spirits, and the bouquet of flowers was supposed to mask her human smell from them. On an even creepier note, pagan bridesmaids would also wear wedding dresses identical to the bride. The bridesmaids existed to act as bait for the evil spirits, confusing them so they wouldn't know which maiden to steal, or steal the wrong one. It was much more bleak than exciting to be asked to stand in a wedding back then. At number 7 we have covering your mouth when you yawn. This tradition doesn't even seem like a tradition, more of a polite reflex. But the pagan attachment to covering your mouth when you yawn is very dark. Again, pagans are terrified of evil spirits stealing their souls. Blocking your mouth when you yawn was supposed to keep evil spirits from taking your life force right out of your throat. Pagans noticed the high infant mortality and connected it to the fact that babies don't cover their mouths when they yawn. Moving on to number 8 we have fingers crossed. When we cross our fingers, we're wishing for luck, or we're telling a lie. But this practice is a far cry from the pagan tradition that it originated from. In ancient times, it wasn't one person who would cross their fingers. Rather, 2 people would use their index fingers to make a cross. This was done as an attempt to harness the power of any good spirits that might be hiding nearby. At number 9 we have the tooth fairy. In early European tradition, a child's tooth was buried in the ground, which was believed to bring good luck to the children. In an unexpectedly sentimental move, Vikings would wear their child's lost teeth into battle to bring them good luck. It might surprise you to learn that the most popular tooth mascot throughout history was a mouse. It was said that a mouse would enter the child's room at night to take children's teeth. This tradition is still active in countries like Russia, China, and Spain. The reason why rodents are mascots for teeth is that mice grow teeth their entire lives. The belief is that the mouse's ability to grow teeth will give the child who has lost a tooth good luck. All these dark traditions have been took and twisted by the Catholic Church to create their own new Christian traditions, in order to keep everyone happy, and convert all pagans and heathen in the long run to Christianity. Now moving on from the dark to the more happy and just fun to know traditions. At number 10 we have Easter eggs. Easter closely aligns with the spring equinox. Germanic pagans would celebrate the goddess of spring, Istra. Istra symbolized fertility as the world blooms again and animal mating season ensues. Istra was also thought to bring colorful eggs as presents for the spring celebration, thus creating the Easter egg. This is another holiday Christians tried to dominate by adding their own stories and meaning to the same time so that people would celebrate their holiday over the pagan one. While the Christian connotations did dominate, many of the practices remain pagan. On number 11 we have the days of the week. In many languages, the days of the week are named after gods and celestial bodies. In English, the day name origins come from the Anglo-Saxons, the Germanic, and the Norse. Monday stems from the Anglo-Saxon word monendag, which translates to Moon's Day, celebrating the moon, much like the French lundi or Spanish lunes relating to Luna. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all come from Norse gods. Odin, or Woden, became Wednesday, Thor turned into Thursday, and Freya is clearly Friday. Tuesday's god is Germanic Tu, the god of war. Again, Christians attempted to rename the days of the week after their saints, but the pagan name stuck. Number 12. Wedding rings. While wedding rings themselves are not explicitly pagan, the fact that we place them on our ring fingers most certainly is. In traditional Greek and Roman beliefs, your fourth or ring finger was thought to have a vein that ran directly to your heart. By placing your wedding ring here, you were making a strong and eternal commitment to love. Number 13. Our obsession with cats and dogs. When we ooh and ah over our temperamental and adorable furry friends, we're taking place in a tradition that stretches back to ancient Egypt. Although cats have known it since the beginning of time, it was the Egyptians who elevated felines to the status of gods in their religion. In fact, the goddess Bastet was depicted as having the head of cat. But don't worry, dog lovers, there's plenty of pagan fun for you too in the dog-headed Egyptian god, Anubis. Number 14. Flower crowns. You're most likely to see flower crowns at Coachella these days, but in ancient Greece, they helped bring worshippers closer to specific deities. Different plants were associated with different gods, so wearing a specific kind of flower wreath would help bring you favor with a specific deity. For example, Zeus was associated with oak, while Aphrodite was associated with myrtle. Number 15. Nike. These days Nike may be a giant sportswear company, but none of their success would have been possible without paganism in ancient Greece. The goddess Nike was worshipped in ancient Greece as the goddess of victory. She would often be worshipped after a successful military win. So, it makes sense why the company would use her name to promote their brand. Number 16. Lady Justice. In courthouses across the world you can see depictions of Lady Justice with her blindfold and scales. These days, it's meant to represent the impartiality of the law. But actually, these statues have a pagan origin. Whether we realize it or not, these are actually depictions of the ancient Roman goddess of justice, Justitia. Although the name may have changed over the years, her personification and meaning these days is nearly identical to those in Roman times. Number 17. Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is basically the same Saturnalia and is yet another Christian holiday that just happens to conveniently fall near a pagan holiday. While these days Mardi Gras may mark the day before Lent begins, in ancient times, it was associated with festivals for Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture. Both celebrations involve wild parties, so it's not hard to see how the two became associated. Number 18. Mother Earth. In modern times, we use Mother Earth as a way to personify the environment, usually in the context of protecting it. But pagan cultures have had a Mother Earth for millennia. When you look at polytheistic religions, you're likely to find some kind of earth goddess personified as a maternal figure. The Greeks had Gaia, Hindus have Prithvi, and some Native American traditions have the spider grandmother. And last we have number 19, U.S. Medal of Honor. In the United States military, the Medal of Honor is the highest honor a service member can achieve. They can be given for various acts of valor, and if you look closely, you might just notice something a little pagan about them. While the design varies depending on the military branch, the Roman goddess Minerva almost always makes an appearance. Considering that she is the goddess of war, This connection makes sense. All these traditions have been took and twisted by the Catholic Church to create their own new Christian traditions, in order to keep everyone happy, and convert all pagans and heathen to Christianity in the long run. This was it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you liked it and want more of this kind of videos.